Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is going to be a quick lesson on how we can rationalize our beliefs as Shia Muslims. So, all Muslims can agree that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent his angel Jibreel to give the Prophet the message of the Quran to teach us. So basically we follow the Sunnah of the Prophet and we follow the Quran itself. All Muslims can agree that we follow these two things right here. Now what's important to ponder upon is what happens after the Prophet has passed away. How do we get this same level of Sunnah or authority on the Quran? Now, to ponder upon that, we have to look at a couple of hadith that I'll list here for you. The first one of them being Hadith al-Thaqalain. So I'll write that down. Hadith al-Thaqalain. So this is the hadith of the two very heavy or weighty things. Okay? So I'll read out that hadith for you shortly right here. So it says, the Messenger of Allah said, "Verily, I am leaving behind you two precious things. The first one of them being the Book of God, and the second one being my itra, or my household, the Ahlul Bayt. For indeed, the two will never separate until they come back to me by the pond of Kawthar." Okay? So the second one among them is the Ahlul Bayt that he is leaving for us, okay? And remember how he said that neither of them will detach from each other until they meet at the pond of Kawthar on the Day of Judgment, okay? So they'll always be with us. So the second one that we should ponder as hadith is the hadith of al-Manzila, which is the hadith of the level. So I'll read this hadith out for you shortly. Basically, it said, the Prophet addressed Ali and said, "To me you are like Aaron was to Moses, except there is no prophet after me." So basically what this hadith is describing is just like how the Prophet was the authority on the Quran, his successor is Ali and the Ahlul Bayt, who are also authorized to read and teach the Quran. Okay? So notice how he said there is no prophet after me. So he's obviously talking about his successorship. So this is talking about the level that they are both on, okay? So again, we have the Quran and we have the Ahlul Bayt. Now, which is obviously equal to this Sunnah over here. These two things are the two weighty things that we balance until the Day of Judgment. Third hadith, okay? So this hadith is doesn't really have a name, but I'll call it the hadith of the best judge. Of the best judge. You can find various forms of this hadith. In Sunni books, it exists in Al-Bukhari, for example. So I'll read out the gist of this hadith here for you. So this one example is narrated by Ibn Abbas, and he said that Omar said, "Our best Quran reciter is Ubay," and the important part here, it says, "and our best judge is Ali." Okay? So now to really understand what this hadith is saying, we should ponder upon two verses of the Quran. I'll write them down here for you. So the first one is going to be 548, and the second verse is going to be 1337. Okay, so I'll read them out for you real quick. The first one, 548, says, "So judge between them by what Allah has revealed." Okay, so basically what this verse is saying is we should judge the people by what is revealed, meaning the Quran, okay? So judgment is very important here. Second verse, 1337 says, "And thus we have revealed it to be a judgment of authority." So basically it's describing the Quran itself. The words of God is saying that it is a judgment. Again, so what did we say about judgment? The best judge amongst them is Ali, alayhi salam. Okay? So the best one, most authorized to speak on the Quran, is the Ahlul Bayt again, as we have seen there. According to the Quran, it itself is a judgment. Okay? The fourth hadith that we should be talking about is the hadith of Ali with the Quran. Most of you people already know this hadith and most of them that I'm showing, but I'll just read them out one more time, okay? So the relevant part of this hadith says, I heard the Messenger of Allah saying, Ali is with the Quran and the Quran is with Ali, and they will not separate until they return to me at the lake. So notice how it's saying the lake of Kawthar again, which is the same one that we heard in Hadith al-Thaqalain there. So obviously these two can be tied together. So again, it's just reiterating that Ali and the Ahlul Bayt, they have the authority on speaking about the Quran. Fifth hadith we should go on to here. This one also doesn't really have a name, but I'll call it the hadith of the wars of interpretation. This is another important hadith, and by the way, I'll give you guys all of these sources if you need them. I have them right here. They're all sahih hadith. So I'll read out this hadith for you real quick. So one day the Prophet said, who among you will fight for the interpretation of the Quran as I have fought on its revelation? At this, Abu Bakr and Umar got up, but the Messenger of Allah said, no, not you, but the one who is busy mending the shoe. And the narrator added, and it was Imam Ali who was the one mending the shoe. Okay, so an important conclusion we can draw from this is not only does Imam Ali have the authority to, as we've learned in hadith number 4 right here, to speak on the Quran, he also can do it, as we learned. He is the best judge, he's the most capable, but he also did do it. Okay, so the Prophet has prophesied that Imam Ali would fight battles and wars upon the correct interpretation of the Quran, and we have seen that in history in battles of Jamal and Siffin, for example. Okay, the last hadith that I like to speak about, you guys probably know this hadith. It doesn't really have a name that I know of, but I'll just call it the hadith of Saluni, I guess. Okay, so Saluni, you guys know, it means ask me. So this important hadith I'll read out for you as well. Okay, so one day Imam Ali said, ask me before you lose me. By Allah, if you ask me about anything that could happen up to the day of judgment, I will tell you about it. Ask me, for by Allah, you will not be able to ask me a question about anything without my informing you. Ask me about the book of Allah. For by Allah, there is no verse about which I do not know whether it was sent down at night or during the day, or whether it was revealed on a plain or in a mountain. Okay? So, we already learned that he can do it, he will do it, he did do it. The last thing that we just needed to prove here is that no one else could do it except for Imam Ali and his Ahlul Bayt. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you very much for listening to the lesson.